So hello friends, I welcome you back to the Videsh Niti series, and the topic of discussion for today is Madhesh Pradesh and implications for India. So if we look at this Madhesh Pradesh, it is an issue that confronts one of our neighbors called Nepal. In Nepal, we have a lot of population which lives in the southern part of Nepal, and that population living in the southern part of Nepal is basically the Madheshi population. Now, these Madheshis who have been living in Nepal, these people unfortunately have been discriminated in Nepal for a very long period of time. The Nepali politics has actually perceived them to be people of origin of Indian descent, and they apparently discriminate them on the lines of they belonging to a different region of the world altogether, that is of India. So that is one prime reason why these Madheshis have apparently witnessed a lot of discrimination. Second, also the factor is that the Nepalis, who are the inhabitants of the upper higher regions of the Himalayas, they have always believed and called themselves as the Pahadis. And the people who are living in the plains in the south have been called Madheshis. So, as a result of which, there has been a lot of discrimination between this so called Pahadis Madheshis also. Now, the third thing is that the discrimination at one point of time was so intense that if there was a Madheshi person who was living in Nepal, and if that person from the Madhesh region had to actually go to the capital of Nepal, that is Kathmandu, then at one point of time that Madheshi person had actually had to apply for a permit. So it is so ironical that to travel in your same country, you have to actually apply for a permit to go from your city in one country to the capital of your country. So this state of affairs very clearly reflects that how unfortunately the Madheshi population has been discriminated for a very long period of time. However, the Nepalis have been struggling to make a constitution, and after a prolonged struggle which included a little bit period of the civil war in between, Nepal finally created their constitution in 2015. Now, when they created their constitution in 2015, they adopted a federal setup. Now, this constitution is a very progressive constitution because it has a rights based framework. The reason why the Nepali constitution also is called progressive is also because it's not dominated by the lawyers, as in the case of Indian constitution, which has been rightly called as the paradise of the lawyers. But the Nepali constitution has been drafted mostly by the politicians. So considering that the politicians today are aware about the pulse of the people and they know the social impulse, theoretically speaking, so in that sense, the Nepali constitution appears to be a very progressive one. It has taken very progressive opinions about certain problems in the society and has adopted a rights based framework. But the constitution has also adopted for what is called as a federal form of government. So, where it has been again theoretically argued that the provinces would be given adequate powers. Now, when the constitution of Nepal was promulgated and created in 2015, there was a naming scheme at that time where the seven provinces which are there in Nepal, they were allowed basically to pick up a name and a capital of their choice. Now, the province number 2 was the province for the Madheshi area. So now what has happened is that if you look at the province number 2, what has happened very recently is that the people of the province number 2, which was earlier the area where the Madheshi people were living, they basically voted for, considering that they had the choice under the constitution to do so, they voted for creating a name of their entire region as the Madhesh Pradesh. Now, when they have created this Madhesh Pradesh, it is an assertion of their cultural identity and it is an assertion of their identity politics. While this entire naming of the province has given a very positive sense of hope to the Madheshi people, but if we largely look at the importance of this entire Madheshi region, few things are clear to us. While Madheshis today live in the southern part of Nepal, And while this Madhesh province territorially is very large and numerically also has a lot of people, it also contributes to the GDP of Nepal and the revenues of Nepal in a very big way. And what is equally important to understand is that the Madheshis have been also the access route to the Pahadi regions of Nepal. So, in a sense, the overall development of Nepal, specifically in the higher regions, through the road networks, goes through the Madheshi region. But as we have seen, and as we all know about the Madheshis, that they have been historically discriminated in a very big way. But now, with the Madheshi people giving a sense of vote to their identity of the Madhesh pride, have recently named their province as the Madhesh Pradesh. Now, if you look at the implication of this, an important aspect is that it has sent kind of shockwaves across Nepal. One reason why it has sent shockwaves across Nepal is not because of any ulterior reason, but the most important reason here is that most of the other six provinces which are there in Nepal, these six provinces have tried to keep their names on some or the other geographical feature, which could be a river, which could be a prominent geographical marker or something like that. None of the six provinces kept their name on their identity. And Madhesh people asserting their identity is an important aspect, because considering that Nepal is a multi-ethnic society, there is a belief amongst many scholars now that there could be pressures by other ethnic groups in other provinces who could apply pressure on their political class to ensure that their ethnic identities are also represented in the form of the name. So, considering the fact that while what Madheshis have done is not wrong, and considering the fact that because Madheshis have been historically discriminated by keeping a name of the province based on their ethnic identity may be not wrong at all, considering they have the choice constitutionally to do so. But the fact that in a multi ethnic society, there could be a spillover effect to other ethnic communities, pressurizing their political class leaders to adopt the similar practice. And more importantly, the question that arises here is, does name really matter? Whether the name of the region of the province too now becomes Madhesh Pradesh, what really is important at this juncture to understand is that the constitution of Nepal might talk about the fact that it is a federal constitution. The reality is that the working in the last almost 6 to 7 years has very categorically stated and explained in front of everyone that the constitution certainly has no federal feature. There is absolute centralization of powers. The provinces are not given the powers to do any activity. They do not have access to any finances. And it is in this backdrop, it is important to understand that what matters here is not the name of the province, but what matters here is that Nepal should actually do development politics which brings welfare for the Madheshi people. While today the Madheshi people might feel that they have won a battle by having access to a name of a province which reflects their ethnic identity. But let's not forget one thing, that assertion of the ethnic identity is definitely not the only objective. What the Madhesh people and these Madheshis have been struggling for so long is access to development. So, this entire naming episode has no very far reaching implications for India, primarily because India has always been supportive of the Madheshis, but while at the same time our foreign policy has always taken care of ensuring that we don't overtly support any one ethnic group in a multi ethnic society. But considering that we have been kind of tilted towards the support for Madheshis. And we argue about the roti beti relationship that we enjoy with the Nepalis. India, to some extent, feels that this step of Madheshis asserting their ethnic identity seems right. Though India has not made an official comment about this because this is an internal matter of Nepal, but our diplomats and our foreign policy bureaucracy has perceived it as a positive sign. But what is important to again reiterate is the fact that name is not the game. The game in reality is the genuine development of Madheshi people. The game genuinely is assertion of development politics, which is where Nepal has to work and ensure that its constitution, which stands for federalism, truly reflects federalism in practice. Thank you.